In Lesson 21, we are going to go a little bit further on the concepts of Lesson 20, and this time we're going to be dividing 2 and 3-digit dividends, or wholes, by 2-digit divisors, but we are still going to be getting a single-digit quotient. The problem that we are going to take a look at today is exactly like our problem in our homework, but with different answers. So you can use this example to answer question number 2 on your homework. So let's take a look. It takes Kamal exactly 40 minutes to drive to his grandmother's. The nearest parking area is a 3-minute walk from her apartment. One week, he realized that he spent 8 hours and 36 minutes traveling to her apartment and then back home. How many round trips did he make to visit his grandmother? The first thing that we want to ask ourselves is, what is the context of the story? And that is really asking, what is the story about? And we can take a look. We know that Kamal is traveling to his grandmother's house. He has to park at a parking area, so he has to have a walk to her apartment and back to get his car. He's talking about 1 week of driving, and he was traveling to his grandmother's house and back home. So he really wants to know about round trips. And if you don't know what round trips are, that means going to someplace and back. Now, when we're talking about our other thing in our story problem, we want to know about our quantities. So that's our numbers. And then we also want to know, what do those numbers mean? So our first number we have is 40 minutes. So the 40 means minutes, and how it's related is that is a drive to his grandmother's house. Then the other quantity we have is a 3-minute walk. And that 3-minute walk is to the parking garage. Then we want to talk about the 8 hours and 36 minutes that he spent in a whole week going to and back home to her apartment. So what we want to take a look at now, maybe through pictures, is what does all that really mean, and how are those quantities related? Meaning, how do they go together in the context of this story problem? So let's draw a picture to represent that. So we have Kamal. I'm just going to draw a stick figure to represent Kamal. And we know that he is traveling in a car. He is traveling from his house to his grandma's house. And then he has to actually park in a parking garage. So I'm going to draw like a little parking lot. And then he actually has to walk from the parking lot to his grandma's house. So I'm actually going to change my arrow up here to represent that he's not driving to the house, he's driving to the parking lot. So that's one trip, and how that's related and how we can fit our quantities in is that this arrow here driving to the parking garage or the parking area is 40 minutes. Walking to his grandmother's house takes another 3 minutes. So total to get to her house would be 43 minutes. But then we also have to think about his round trip, meaning not only did he go to his grandmother's house, but he also went back home. So we have to think about, not only did he go, but he also made a return trip to the parking garage, which was also 3 minutes. And then he went from the parking area, the parking garage, back home, which was another 40 minutes. So again, not only to get to grandmother's house, but to get back home was another 43 minutes. So to do that math for the round trip, I am going to just take my total time and I will multiply it by 2 because you're going there and back. So round trip is going to equal 43 times 2. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. So a round trip would be 86 minutes. So now that we've built some background of what this story is actually talking to us about through our pictures and figuring out the round trip, 86 minutes, we want to take a look at what our question and our story problem is actually asking us. And the question is, how many round trips did he make to visit his grandmother? So we already did the work. I'm going to make this a different color so that we can keep it out, is we really want to know how many round trips. So we know that we're going to be using this 86 minutes in our problem. And now we want to solve in numbers. And in solving with numbers, we're going to estimate, solve, and then check. So first we have to figure out what's our whole. To get our whole, we're going to go back to our quantity of 8 hours and 36 minutes because that's the whole amount of time that he spent in his car. Now, we want to get it into the unit of minutes because that is what our round trip unit is. So we have 8 hours, and I know that 8 hours, we'll try that 8 again. 8 hours, in 1 hour, there is 60 minutes. So to get my 8 hours into minutes, I'm going to multiply it by 60. So 8 and 0 is 0. 8 times 6 is 48. So in my 8 hours, I have 480 minutes. But then I have my extra 36 minutes that I need to add on to get my total. So I'll do 480 plus 36 to get my total minutes, or my whole minutes. 0 plus 6 is 6. 8 plus 3 is 11. I leave the 1 and carry my 10. And 1 plus 4 is 5. So the total amount of minutes is 516 minutes. So now that I have my whole, I can start solving my equations. So first I'm going to estimate, and I am dividing this whole number by this 86 because I want to know the total amount of round trips. So my whole number is the 516 minutes. And I'm dividing it by the 86 because I want to know how many groups of 86 I have. Now the first thing that you want to do in estimating is that you want to round your divisor. So rounding 86, I'm going to round up to 90. Then the next step in solving for my estimate is I want to find a multiple of 90 that is close to 516. So to find that multiple, I'm going to take this 9 and I'm going to count by 9s. So I have 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, and 54. I'm going to stop here because I'm noticing that these two numbers are really getting close to this beginning of my number, so I'm going to stop because I don't need to go any further. And then to make these multiples of 9 closer to 90, I'm going to add my zeros from that 0 and 90 to make them the same place value. And then I'll ask myself, which of these multiples is closest to that 516? And for me, I'm going to go below at 450 and just see where that takes me. You could also do 540. Each of those would work. So I will do 450 divided by 90 to get my estimate. So I will take off my zeros because those are both 10s, and 10 divided by 10 is 1. And then I'm left with 45 divided by 9, which is, if I count my multiples, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would be 90 times 5. So my estimate is going to be 5. Now I'm going to go to my solving. I'm going to draw my vertical algorithm. My whole goes on the inside, so my 516 total minutes. And my 86 goes on the outside. And now I'm going to ask myself, how many times do I think 86 will go into 516? And this is where you can use your estimate as a starting place. So I'm going to start with 5. And I make sure that I put it over the 1's place value because it's in the 1's place value. Now I have to subtract how many groups I made of 86. So to get that, I'm going to do 86 times 5 to get how much I am subtracting. So I have 5 times 6, which is 30. And carry the 3. Then 5 times 8, which is 40, plus 3, and that is 43. So I'm taking away 43. 430, not 43. Now, this is where I do my first check to make sure that I didn't overestimate my first group number. So your check 1 is, did I do too many groups? Is my 5 too many groups? And what you're really thinking is, can I do my subtraction problem? Can I do 516 take away 430? I can, because 516 is more than 430, so I didn't do too many groups. So let's do this subtraction problem. 6 take away 0 is 6. 1 take away 3, I can't do that until I borrow, so I'm going to do the 5 becomes a 4, and then the 1 becomes an 11. So 11 take away 3 is 8, and then 4 take away 4 is 0. Now here's where my second check comes in. So my check 2 is, did I do enough groups in my top number here in 5? And the way to think about that is, can I make another group of 86 with my leftover? And yeah, I can see that I have 86 left over and I can make one more group. So I actually will change this 5 to a 6 because I can make another group of 86. And so it'd actually be minusing that 6th group, 86, and I would be getting to 0. So I have 0 left over, which means I don't have a remainder. So I can move on to my check. So in my check, I want to be multiplying 86 times my quotient, 6, adding a remainder, but I don't have a remainder. 6 times 6 is 36. Leave the 6, carry the 3. 6 times 8 is 48 plus 3, so 54. 1. So 516 should match my whole. And to solve in Word,